All right, Buffalo Bills fans, welcome to this episode of The Walkthrough. I am your host, Anthony Marino. Happy to be here with you once again. And here we are, the regular season finale for our beloved Buffalo Bills. Of course, happy to be here, part of the Overreaction Sports Network. Got you covered each and every day, coming throughout the week, talking about our beloved Buffalo Bills. Of course, each and every week, our show is sponsored by our friends at FanDuel. It's time of recording, 7.5-point favorites for the Buffalo Bills on Sunday afternoon's matchup. So, of course, plenty to talk about this week. It is, again, Week 18, the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets. In addition to that, the Buffalo Bills will be playing what is most likely the final game at, call it Highmark Stadium, if you call it the Ralph, if you call it Rich Stadium, whatever it is you might refer to it. The Buffalo Bills obviously moving across the street, and I've got some thoughts on that as well when it comes to the uniform standpoint. An anticipated addition to the uniform combo for the Bills, sporting the red helmets on Sunday for the one and only time this season. So something I know fans were certainly looking forward to, and it'll be kind of nice to see the Buffalo Bills sporting the red helmets against the Jets on Sunday. You know, as we go through this and kind of as we talk about this episode, going to be a little bit different because, of course, the matchup on Sunday, while we'll talk about some of those things as it relates to the injury report and some of the players, of course, talking a bit more about Highmark Stadium, a lot of the coverage this past week and what it means to so many fans of the Buffalo Bills. Let's go through the injury report now. That's where we usually start each week. So we'll kind of get to this, and then we'll take care of business. So first up, Josh Allen. He did not practice, as you know, on Wednesday or Thursday with the foot injury. He was listed as limited on Friday, and if you did catch the comments from Sean McDermott on WGR on Friday morning, he said Josh will be good to go. What that means, still kind of to be determined. In addition to that, linebacker Terrell Bernard with the calf did not practice all week. He has been ruled out for the team. Joey Bosa with the hamstring. He did not practice on Wednesday or Thursday. He was limited on Friday. His game status listed as questionable for Sunday. James Cook got a vet rest day on Thursday, full practice on Friday, no designation for him. AJ Epinesa was out with an illness on Thursday. There's definitely something going around this time of year. He was a full participant on Friday, no game status for him. Reggie Gilliam out with an illness on Wednesday, was a full practice on Thursday and Friday, no game day status there. Tylan Grable was out on Thursday for personal reasons. He was a full participant on Friday. Daquan Jones did not practice all week with the calf injury. He is listed as out already for Sunday's game. Dalton Kincaid, he was limited all week with the knee. He is listed as questionable. Let's see here. Dawson Knox, the other main tight end for the Bills, limited on both Wednesday and Thursday. He was a full participant on Friday. Cam Lewis with the hamstring, limited on Wednesday and Thursday. He was also a full go on Friday. Jordan Phillips was limited on both Wednesday and Thursday. On Friday, he was a full practice participant. He is listed as questionable for Sunday's game. Jordan Poyer did not practice all week with his hamstring injury. He is already ruled out for Sunday. Some good injury news for the Bills. Doesn't seem like there's been a ton of that. Recently, Matt Prater with his right quad, he was a full participant in practice all week. He is good to go for Sunday's game. A couple other guys with some illnesses. Deion Walker missed practice on Friday with illness. Tre'Davious White was limited on Thursday with the illness, but was a full go on Friday. So that was a lot. And when you kind of come into Week 18, so many questions around the injuries, the team looking to get healthy, heading to the playoffs, who's going to be available, who will sit on Sunday. We'll kind of talk about some of that, a little bit of speculation coming up later in the show. That was a lot to kind of to run through there. Going to grab a little bit of coffee quick, and as we come through and really kind of talk about this last week. But, before we get to that, let's, of course, recognize our friends at Anchor Bar. Appreciate their support all throughout the show this entire season. And, of course, Anchor Bar is the home of the original Buffalo chicken wing, and it's your place to watch the game on Sunday. If you're not able to go to Highmark Stadium or all your favorite sports teams, maybe you want to catch the Red Hot Sabres, and it's nice to see them playing well in recent weeks. But you can go to anchorbar.com to see all the locations, info on online ordering, check out the menus, anything you could possibly want there. Go to anchorbar.com. Of course, the wings, they're fresh, never frozen, high quality, and they're deep fried and sauced to your liking. Over 24 varieties of sauces and rubs for you to choose from. Hey, maybe you're not in the mood for wings or you want to get something on the side. They've got salads, burgers, beef on weck, sandwiches, pizzas, so many different things for you to choose from. And like I said, go to anchorbar.com to get all that information. 16 locations plus 3 new ones in Tucson, Arizona, Frisco, Texas, and Raleigh, North Carolina. And let's hope that we can get an Anchor Bar location coming to Albany, New York sometime very soon. So listen, right now it's time to talk a little bit about Highmark Stadium. And I will be honest with you all. I wrestled with this throughout the week because you try to add some perspective. There's been so much amazing coverage, and just kind of like wrap my head around it just a bit. And, you look at the team here at the Overreaction Sports Network. Of course, John Fina and Jerry Ostrowski, they played the majority of their NFL careers at Highmark Stadium. So they add such a perspective, as they do each and every week, right, as former NFL players. But then when you talk about the significance of the building and what it means to them, they're going to add a much different perspective than anyone. Joe Miller, right, a longtime season ticket holder. And from the time that I've gotten to know Joe, understand how important it is to him and his family to go to these games, to be a part of the Bills Mafia and what that is. And Joe brings a very different perspective. And then there's for myself. And it's like, well, how, and it's not making it about me, right? This is about the fans. This is about the team. This is about so much. In your life, you get to you're fortunate enough to go to a handful of Bills games. And you all know I don't live in the Buffalo area. My first Bills game I ever went to was 51-3. Was very fortunate there. I was able to go with my dad. I was a freshman in high school and went with a good buddy of mine and his father. They were actually diehard Raiders fans, right? So the Bills playing the Raiders, traveling out east to play in the AFC Championship game. So the 4 of us went, and well, you can imagine which family had a better time at that game. And when you think about your first game that you get to go to, how important that is. And it's been a couple years since I've been back to Highmark Stadium for a game. I brought my youngest daughter to see the Jets in the season finale a handful of years back. Bitter cold day, one of those couldn't pick a September game to go to. But then you're there, you're with everyone, you see the team, you're part of the celebration. You realize why it's such a special place. But it's a very different kind of feeling for so many people. And as you hear the stories over this season, but especially over the past week, you can understand why it's so important to those that cover the team, to those that have played there, to those that are just part of the Buffalo Bills community. One thing that really stood out to me was Sean McDermott's comments on Friday during his press conference. And, very rarely do you see Coach get too emotional. And I say that in a way that when he was talking about Highmark Stadium and what the building has meant to him and to his family, and saying, hey, on Saturday night, I'm probably going to go out there and just spend a little time making that drive again. You realize, right? This is his first head coaching opportunity that he had. Obviously, things have gone incredibly well for him and for the team and what that means to him. And right when that's part of your daily routine, but such a critical point in your life, there was just something about McDermott's comments that really stood out to me, right? That I just wasn't expecting, because you can look at it, you think, okay, to the fans, right? You've been going there. If you're a season ticket holder, if that's just like the centerpiece of what this team means to you. But okay, like, yeah, you show up as a head coach in 2017 and what that means, like, no, this is all he knows as a head coach. And we know that Sean McDermott is a creature of habit, right? When it comes to kind of his routine and what he goes through, and even just talking about the experiences when he had been there, that really stood out to me. And I think in everything that I've been following, and you think like with former players, members of the media, that stood out the most. And I guess I just wasn't expecting that from Sean McDermott. I'm glad that I caught that because that just kind of stood out to me. Another thing that I don't think has been captured enough, because everyone has been collecting these stories, but it's the members of the media. And I say that, right, because, we do these shows here, we do these podcasts, we get to engage, and I think the media here do a great job, right, in kind of engaging with us as, podcast hosts or content creators, engaging with the fans, because there's really just this kind of, you can't consume enough of the content throughout the season and even throughout the off season. And, there'll always be this kind of narrative throughout the year, like, well, the media, they're not fans of the team. And you get that, like they have to be, kind of toe this line. But I think every member of the media will tell you when the team is performing at a high level, whether you're guys like Vic Carucci or Sal Mayorana or Mike Catalana that were back during, the Super Bowl run in the 90s, or even to those that kind of survived the drought, or even some of the kind of newer members to the media covering the team. It's a hell of a lot more enjoyable. Your job is a hell of a lot more enjoyable when the team is doing well, right? When you're able to talk about something that's very positive and there's a buzz and an excitement, and fans are excited to engage with you and get that content. But I do think for so many of these members of the media, as they get a bit nostalgic talking about Highmark Stadium and what it means to them, you have to think to yourself too, like, this has really been the centerpiece of their work. Whether you're a beat reporter covering the Bills or someone that this is the majority of what you go through, this is where your career has grown, right? Maybe if you started during the tail end of the drought, to come out of that and all of a sudden, the Bills are a national story and you're getting this type of, kind of buzz around your coverage and what you're doing and stories that you might be able to break. And I think for so many members of the media, I started to see it this past week, like, now it's more than just a job, right? I mean, there's so many points in their career, so many different milestones that have come through Highmark Stadium. So I've enjoyed hearing their stories as they talk about it, or their favorite games to cover, or things that have really stood out to them, because right, they're closer to us. They're that voice to us in so many ways. We're hearing more from those reporters and what they do and their coverage. And that's just really been interesting to me this week. I've really, really enjoyed it. And I say it too, and I mentioned the three guys beforehand. And if there's anyone I'm missing, I do apologize. I don't mean to leave anyone out. But, when I talk about Vic Carucci to a lesser extent, and I say that because I grew up in Rochester, but, Sal Mayorana and Mike Catalana, as I was a kid, I was like either watching Mike on television and, his work that he was doing, covering the Bills and all sports in the Rochester area, and reading Sal Mayorana's work in the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. There used to be two daily newspapers. Crazy, right? When you think about that, there was the Times Union and the Democrat and Chronicle. I don't know if Sal wrote for both, but anyway, that tells you how far back we are going, and to them and the amount of time and coverage that they've put into this team. I've just always really appreciated their work, even though I might not always agree with some of their opinions and things that they do. But for me, growing up with the team, especially for Sal and for Mike, two constants, and and kind of as you just get to this point, I don't know, I felt like it was worth recognizing when, the three of them each covering the team in excess of 35 years each, like, they've seen a lot, they've been through a lot, and to be able to maintain with their coverage and kind of adapt as things go forward, I'm just always been appreciative of those guys, and felt like they kind of deserve that piece. But again, you try to put this into some perspective and what Highmark Stadium means to fans. And again, Jerry and John having played there, Joe being a longtime season ticket holder, myself being to, and I always kind of refer to it as the Ralph, handful of games right over my life. It's like I don't have as many of those stories or experiences that they might be able to talk about. But when you talk about Sean McDermott's comments, you talk about the media coverage, you talk about all the fans that you hear from, whether you see it on social media or you're catching up with someone, you just realize like there's this family atmosphere that comes to being a Buffalo Bills fan. And yes, the internet and social media has allowed us to kind of expand that base and have conversations with people we never would have engaged with or met with before. And that's kind of a unique piece that comes with it. But if you're out in the store, wherever you may live, and you see someone wearing a Bills sweatshirt or a hat or any sort of gear, and you just walk by and you hit them with a Go Bills, you know that they're going to hit you back with a Go Bills. And it's such a great feeling, and it's a sense of camaraderie. And I think when you talk about the team and what it's meant to so many people and why they come together, it is that family type of atmosphere. And yes, maybe some of that, sense of family comes around some shared heartache when you think about some of the shortcomings of the franchise and where they are and kind of looking to win that first Super Bowl that, we all believe will eventually come. And we talked about last week. Why not this year? But it is that sense of family. When you try to think of like a comparison to Highmark Stadium and what it was, I kind of equate it to like when you grow up and you would go to your grandparents' house, right? And maybe you're there with your cousins, your grandparents kind of let you get away with murder or whatever it is, like you're hanging out in their basement, playing in their yard, like getting into a good kind of trouble. And then as you grow as an adult and you go back to visit your grandparents' house, and at least when you talk about my generation, right? And I think you go back to that house, and whether it was my grandparents who have since passed, or I think on my wife's side of the family, you go back to that house and it's carpet's a bit dated, appliances haven't been updated in way too long. Maybe there's some old wallpaper, still hung. The pictures around are, maybe got some interesting fashion choices and hairstyles and things like that. But it's less about what the house is today, and it's more about the memories that you used to have. Like I said, whether you're hanging with, with your cousins or your parents or family get-togethers or holidays or what any of that looks like. And there's like that nostalgic piece that comes to it. And that's what I think about when I talk about Highmark Stadium, right? Like, yeah, it doesn't have all the amenities. It's the concourse hallways are way too small. The lines for the bathrooms are way too big. Some of the sight lines might not be the best. Some of the, the access for the press. I mean, Joe Biscaglia was talking about that on his show. Not what it should be. That's not what's important, right? It's the time that you spent together with those people there, those shared memories. Like I said before, my first game was 51-3. Talk to anyone else that was there for 51-3, that holds a very special place in their heart. And again, when you try to make that analogy, to me, it just kind of, like I said, it kind of ties to, if you're fortunate enough to spend time at your grandparents with your cousins, even when you go back, you're talking about those same memories, those same stories. And to me, that's what Highmark Stadium is going to be. But don't get me wrong, when it comes to it, to be able to move across the street, right? So the routine's not going to change too much, to a state-of-the-art facility that still will have the elements for Buffalo Bills fans, still have the tailgating experience, still have so much of what makes Buffalo Bills football special. To me, I think there can be a lot of excitement while you can, hold the old Highmark Stadium as a special place in your heart. I think when you look at the newness and what's coming forth, and I'll be honest, I took the trip to London a couple years back to see the Bills play the Jaguars in the Tottenham Spurs Stadium, which is kind of a blueprint for what the new Highmark Stadium will be. I think fans will be really excited when they get to check this out soon enough. So thank you for indulging me there just a little bit as I kind of ramble through talking about this. And for those of you going to the game on Sunday, I hope you have a great time. For those of you that won't be able to be out there on Sunday like myself. I hope you had that, kind of those fond memories that you're able to share as well. Listen, I do want to talk about the game here as well, just a little bit. We've got this injury report and kind of some of the expectations. So I want to get through that with you too. Do got to take care of a little bit of business here, though, courtesy of our friends at ZipRecruiter. And, I think when you get to those New Year's resolutions, sometimes maybe it ties to your career and what you're looking to do. And I think if you're looking to, build a team, that it's hard to find people that are so good at what they do. It's like if you're hiring, how can you find the best people for all the different roles on your team? Well, it's easy. Use ZipRecruiter. And right now you can try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/audio. Let ZipRecruiter help you find the best people for all your roles. 4 out of 5 employees who post on ZipRecruiter get quality candidates within the first day. See for yourself. Just go to this exclusive web address right now. Try ZipRecruiter for free. That's ziprecruiter.com/audio. Again, that's ziprecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. All right, so taking care of all the business. Now let's talk about the game on Sunday. And I think there's a lot of questions on what the Buffalo Bills are going to do. I will be honest. I do not envy the position that Sean McDermott is in this week, because I think when you talk about this matchup, there's a lot of different things to consider. Obviously, the last game in the old Highmark Stadium, the nostalgia there and kind of what that means to the fans. And you can say as a franchise, like, okay, listen, you're focused on getting ready for the playoffs and the Super Bowl, but there's this piece, right, of what this means to the Buffalo Bills fan base, and that can't be taken for granted. Of course, the health aspect, right? You go through a laundry list of a injury report here, and there's a lot of things to take into account, and we'll kind of run through some of that just a little bit. The other side of things, of course, just comes to some of those personal achievements. Josh Allen, the consecutive game streak, that means a lot to him. James Cook in contention for the NFL, rushing title. We know that that's important to him, and it's something that's important to members of the team. Then there's players that have different contract-based incentives. Obviously, that is critical. And you probably have some young players. You can look at things that, hey, if some of the starters are sitting, it gives them an opportunity for some extended playing time to put some quality work on tape. What that means for them, there's a lot of different storylines to go through there. So, first, going back to McDermott, going into the playoffs as healthy as you can has to be priority one. It has to, right? In a game that is relatively meaningless, like, yeah, a lot of things would need to fall into place to get the 5 seed. Do you end up as the 6? Do you end up as the 7 seed? That certainly will take place. But I guess as you look at it, it's not one of those like, oh, if you win, you get a chance to play at home versus going on the road, or you can, be in contention for the 1 seed to get a bye. It's just not that important to me. And I think when we've looked at the Bills and some of the shortcomings in the playoffs over the past couple of years, because they haven't been healthy, that has definitely had an impact. So, you go through some of these, like I was glad to see that Jordan Poyer's already listed out. Same with Daquan Jones, because listen, those guys will need to be healthy for the playoffs, for the Bills defense to be the best that they can be. I didn't include Terrell Bernard in that just because, I think as you look at it, I think his injury, I don't think he's as close to coming back as some may think. And I think that he might be a candidate to go on injured reserve, but that remains to be seen. A couple of other guys that showed up as questionable, right? So 3 players, and I'll go through with each of them. First, Joey Bosa on the list. And those of you watching on the video side, I've got it up on my screen over here. So when you see me point over to the side, that's because I've got this laundry list of the Bills injury report on my other computer screen. Joey Bosa listed as questionable. Listen, I know he has some incentives at play. Maybe it's something where it's a playtime incentive or kind of being active on week 18. So it might be a little bit of a ceremonial appearance for Joey Bosa on Sunday, but I hope it's nothing more than that. When we talked through the beginning of this season, having Joey Bosa healthy for the playoffs, for the end of the season, the stretch run here, that was one of the most important things that we looked at, right? A guy that has battled injuries throughout his career, for the most part, has been, when I say relatively healthy, the wrist issues, some of the stuff with the hamstring, but nothing that has really kept him out of games, right? No trips to the IR, anything along those lines. So okay, you did it. You're here now. So let's not risk anything. Again, if you got to do something a little bit ceremonial to check a couple of boxes for some incentives, that's fine. But I hope that it's nothing more than that. Dalton Kincaid, I would like to see him be inactive on Sunday. Such a critical piece to the Buffalo Bills offense. And, with this, for as banged up as he has been and as injury prone as he has been throughout his career with the Buffalo Bills, I hope that he is listed as inactive. Jordan Phillips, this one's a little bit different. And I say that because he was a full practice participant on Friday. But with Daquan Jones being out, I think when you talk about some of the just the gaps at defensive tackle and what that looks like, I think Phillips might have to be a go, just to, again, not that you're putting Larry Ogunjobi and TJ Standers, Deion Walker missing practice on Friday with illness. You just don't know how good he is going to be to go. So, maybe if there's one of these three guys that really does have to play a relative full workload, Jordan Phillips might be the guy on Sunday, because I just think, based on how the numbers work and sort of with him being a reserve defensive tackle, Deion Walker, if he, only plays a handful of snaps, that might be a necessity based on him battling some of this illness. Josh Allen, I'm guessing he is going to play that first snap, give the ball to James Cook, and then it will be the Mitch Trubisky show from there. If Josh was fully healthy this week, maybe it would be a little bit different. But with him kind of recovering from that foot injury, looking to get 100% healthy, there's really no need for him to play. And I know some have said, listen, for them to put together a good drive just to kind of, in my opinion, it's we're at week 18, right? There is not something that you're working out in a token appearance here this late into the season. And whatever, if your issues are with the way Josh has been playing or Joe Brady has been playing, even if they're to march down the field and score a touchdown, to me, that does not change anything, based on some of the challenges that they have had and where the Buffalo Bills will be going into the playoffs. So that is my expectation. You might think something different. Of course, that is fine too. We will find out on Sunday afternoon and certainly see what takes place there. Some other players, Tre'Davious White is an interesting one on this list. Will we just see kind of a full game from Maxwell Hairston on Sunday? Trey has been playing more snaps than the rookie Hairston has over these past few weeks. It was kind of a 50-50 split before. Will that be kind of a situation? I expect Christian Benford to be a healthy scratch. Maybe Trey White will as well. That's something I'm definitely keeping an eye on. Another one when it comes to wide receiver, who's going to be active, who is going to be play. Keon Coleman, he has been such a storyline this entire season. You think back to that week 1 win against the Baltimore Ravens and how critical he was to the team's comeback. And it hasn't been too much to write home about since then. I expect him to play most of the game. Let's see what can happen, right? It's going to be an interesting offseason for him. And this will probably be his last significant playing time for the Bills this season before an offseason. But, where we see, is he going to be a trade candidate? What's going to take place? Does it end up being kind of getting a second chance with the Bills? But that's someone I'll be keeping an eye on Sunday. In addition to that, last game at Highmark Stadium, there's so many guys that I would make inactive, and I realize there's only so many spots where you can do this. So every time I throw it out there, it's just hear me out. But, Shaq Thompson, if Terrell Bernard is going to be out for a significant amount of time, which at least it feels like he is going to be, then Shaq Thompson does not need to play on Sunday against the Jets. And for Joe Andreessen, growing up, going to so many Buffalo Bills games at the Ralph, for him to maybe get the start and play the majority of the game, certainly would be a great experience for him. So, when we look at this game, and here I am talking about resting so many guys, everything that's taking place, no matter who is out on the field, I do believe that Sean McDermott and his coaching staff are going to be coaching to win. And I say that, and sometimes it'd be like, well, don't they always coach to win? Like, I'm talking about the play calling. I'm talking about the product that's put out on the field, not just hey, let's get out of this as quickly as we can, right? Let's just continuously hand the ball off, keep that clock running. Let's get out of here. Like, I think with it being the last game in the old stadium, at least based on Sean McDermott's comments the other day, they want to go out with a win. And I think the team wants to go out with a win. I think this is going to be a little bit different than that traditional Week 18 game that doesn't mean anything. I certainly might be wrong. I don't know. It's so hard to tell what to expect from this one because, as I said before, I don't envy the position that Sean McDermott is in because there's so many different factors to come into play. So, listen, I do got to say this, though. You come to the end of the regular season. It has been so much fun being with you guys, being part of the Overreaction Sports Network and being with all of you. Make sure that you comment, make sure you share, make sure you like as much as you possibly can. Not just the walkthrough, right? You get all the great shows that we have here at the Overreaction Sports Network with Joe Miller, John Fina, Jerry Ostrowski, Zig Fracassi, Dan Freddy. We got you covered each and every week. And it just, I know the season's not done yet. I don't want to make this sound like, signing off for an extended period of time. But just as you come to the end of the regular season, there's always that part like, gosh, you think about all the time we spend talking about the combine, the draft, free agency, mini camp, OTAs, training camp, preseason, just to get to the regular season. And here we are now coming to week 18. So I appreciate you all being along for the ride with us. So listen, I'm going to get out of here for now. Appreciate you tuning in each and every week. Go Bills, and I'll talk to you again next week. Take care.